Has the Prime Minister made a decision yet on Dominic Raab's future?
No, he hasn't. He's taking his time to consider the report. He did only receive the report yesterday, and of course it's a report produced after a 5-month inquiry. So I'm assuming it'll be no doubt an extensive report, and the Prime Minister is a man who will want to take the time to read the report in full, go through the detail before he reaches a conclusion. This is an important matter. It's important both for the complainants that have made complaints about Dominic Raab and also for Mr Raab. And the Prime Minister will want to make the right decision and be fair to both groups of people.
When will he make his decision? Will it be today?
Well, look, he'll want to reach a conclusion as quickly as he can. This is an important matter, but he'll also want to take the time to get it right. And as I said, he only received the report yesterday, and it's a report produced after a 5-month inquiry by a senior KC. So, you know, there's a balance to strike here about taking the time to get it right. And of course, as you've reflected in your report, there are lots of other things that the Prime Minister has to focus on as well as this. So I think it's important he takes the time, but he will want to reach a swift conclusion after taking the time to go through the report.
Swift conclusion. Can you give us a rough time frame when we should get a decision by? Will we get one by the end of today?
No,
can
look,
you confirm that, or can you give us any idea?
I'm not going to speculate about it. Look, I haven't read the report myself. The Prime Minister is doing that, and he will obviously want to reach a swift conclusion. But as I said, he did only receive the report yesterday, and it is as a result of a 5-month inquiry. So I think if people are being reasonable about it, I think people would want him to take the time, read the report in full himself before he reaches a conclusion. And that would be fair, actually, to those that have made the complaints as well as to the Deputy Prime Minister.
Is it fair to say that if this report was conclusive, there'd be a decision by the Prime Minister by now? Does this imply that the report is finely balanced?
Well, look, I don't think people should read anything into it. I've read those reports, but I think that's speculation. You know, I haven't read the report myself. I prefer to... I think due process is important in these matters. You know, the Prime Minister set up an inquiry with a very credible, serious KC to do the inquiry, and I think actually if you're going to do justice to the process, he should take the time to read the report, and actually we shouldn't speculate. Now, I certainly, as a member of the government, shouldn't speculate about it. I think we should give the Prime Minister the time to make the decision. He'll want to reach a swift conclusion, but as I said, he only got the report yesterday.
OK, and it's for the Prime Minister to make the decision. You talk about due process, but is he minded to show the report to his ethics advisor, Laurie Magnus?
Well, look, fundamentally, this is a decision for the Prime Minister. The KC that he appointed, Adam Tolley's job was to establish the facts, was to talk to the complainants, to talk to Dominic Raab, to talk to other people who could throw light on the circumstances involved. And that means the Prime Minister will then have all of the facts in front of them. But fundamentally, it's a decision for him about who serves in the government. So it's a decision for him, and he'll take that decision, you know, in the careful, meticulous way that he reaches all his decisions. OK,
and Dominic Raab promised to resign if the report conclusively showed that he'd bullied staff. He hasn't resigned. He continues to maintain, as we understand it, that he behaved professionally. That would imply that the report is inconclusive, doesn't it?
Well, look, Dominic Raab, as far as I'm aware, hasn't said anything himself since the report was received. He has, I think, all through the process, he's been very clear that he would fully comply with the process, which he has. And I know when I've seen him being interviewed, he's been very careful to respect the process and not try and prejudge it and not speculate about it. So I think that's the best solution. So I think it's better if people just wait, not speculate, wait for the outcome of the process. And then until people have actually seen the contents of the report. I know it is difficult when none of us have seen this, but I just wonder what your reaction is to the fact that Dominic Raab, as we understand it, he's seen the report, but he hasn't quit. Well, I think you're trying to draw me into speculating about what the contents of the report are, which I completely understand, and I completely understand people, you know, wanting to know what the Prime Minister's decision is going to be. But as I said, I think after a 5-month inquiry. I think also you've got to remember that there were serious complaints that were made, and I think it's also worth remembering this. You know, the media reporting obviously focuses on the future of the Deputy Prime Minister, but, you know, there were people involved here who have made serious complaints, and I think you've got to be fair to them as well, and I think it's by treating this seriously and the Prime Minister taking the time to read the report in detail before reaching a conclusion, it's putting proper weight on the complaints that have been made as well as on the future of the Deputy Prime Minister.
Has the Prime Minister spoken to Dominic Raab?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to the Prime Minister. I don't know whether he has spoken to the Deputy Prime Minister, but actually the right thing for the Prime Minister is to read the report to understand the facts. The whole point about why Adam Tolley was asked to do the inquiry was to establish the facts, to listen to the complainants, to talk to Dominic Raab and to other people involved in the process. And it's the report that will then set out for the Prime Minister the facts, and it's on the basis of those facts that he can then reach a conclusion.
As things stand, does the Prime Minister still have full confidence in the Deputy Prime Minister?
Well, look, you're trying to draw me into a conclusion. The Prime Minister's had the report, and he's in the process of going through what will no doubt be an extensive report after a 5-month inquiry. He will then reach a conclusion. My understanding, he hasn't yet made a decision, and he'll set that out in the usual way, and we'll know what the position is. And I think you're trying to draw me into speculating. He's in the process of reaching that conclusion, and he'll set that out as soon as he's able.
OK, I think a lot of people just have a lot of questions, that's all. But let me move on to another subject, because today marks the start of 4 days of protests by Extinction Rebellion and other groups in London. How concerned are you about disruption?
Well, look, I'd say a couple of things. First of all, the big event this weekend with the marathon, I would be appalled if that was disrupted. You know, there are thousands of people that take part in that race who will have trained all year, who are raising money for charity, and I think it would be appalling if it was disrupted. So that's the first point. The second point is the protesters, I think, have got completely the wrong target here. They're making a very serious point about climate change. Britain is one of the countries, and this government is one of the governments that's leading the fight against climate change. We only just a few weeks ago, in my own department, published our zero-emission vehicle mandate about how we're going to decarbonise road transport. We published our details about how we're going to make aviation more sustainable by using sustainable aviation fuel. You know, this government is actually leading the fight globally against climate change. Actually, Just Stop Oil protesters would be much better spent going and protesting in countries where they don't take this seriously, rather than actually disrupting the lives of millions of ordinary people who are trying to go on about their lives in a country which is led by a government which is taking this very seriously.
Do you have concerns as Transport Secretary for the transport system? Are you confident it'll be running smoothly as usual this weekend?
Well, look, we obviously look at potential threats to our public services. You know, we obviously look at the intelligence that's out there, and we obviously take all the proper steps to make sure that we can keep the transport system running, that we can obviously prevent disruption. And I know if anybody does break the law, then, you know, we will use all of the forces at our disposal to make sure that we can protect ordinary people going about their lives and people that are, you know, for example, running in the marathon and raising money for charity. And I just hope people use their democratic processes and they don't try and break the law or disrupt ordinary people going about their lives.